Folks, we're visiting today with Cate Schlobohm. She serves as the director at WVU, West Virginia University's Purpose Center. Cate, thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me today, Jim.
Yeah, it's great to see you. I'm looking forward to our conversation and learning more about what you do.
Positively West Virginia. Positively West Virginia.
Positively West Virginia is powered by Breezeline high-speed fiber internet and sponsored by Highmark West Virginia, Freedom Kia of Morgantown, and Humble Influence. With the help of these sponsors, we're able to share the positive business stories of West Virginians, including the one from today's episode.
So Cate, tell us a little bit about your role at West Virginia University and the Purpose Center.
Yeah, so thanks. I am the director of the WVU Purpose Center. I have been there for about 3 years now. I started as the program and outreach manager. And what we do at the Purpose Center is we help students figure out what they want to do, how they're going to get there, and we help kind of connect them with the path and the people that are going to help them along the way. So it's a really big job. It's not easy. There's no one-size-fits-all approach, but every day is something different. It's wonderful.
I love it. It sounds extremely interesting, and I can't think of a better purpose than to have a Purpose Center
Exactly.
at WVU. This is awesome. So, talk a little bit about the students that you're working with. How do they come to find you at the Purpose Center?
Yeah, so we try to be as many places as we can be. So in the Purpose Center, we start working with students before they even come on campus. So as part of their pre-new student orientation modules, we use an assessment called the Clifton Strengths Assessment.
Yeah,
and students have the opportunity to take that before they come on campus. So they will come on campus knowing their top 5 strengths. Then we start working with them in their first year seminars, kind of laying that foundation of what is strengths, why does it matter, what do you want to do, what's your purpose, kind of asking those questions because a lot of times maybe they've never considered it.
Yeah.
And then from there we kind of keep building the learning each semester in different programs. We do everything from one-on-one coaching, we work in the classrooms, we do workshops. We just always try to meet the students where they are, and we know that that journey and the path can look different for every single student. So it's different for every interaction that we have.
Yeah, Cate, I can tell you, where were you back in 1985 when I was in college? Because this is the point. I think so many college kids, especially that freshman year, even before they get to school, like you were saying, they're wondering, what am I supposed to be doing? Why was I created for this life here that I'm supposed to be doing, and finding the purpose is really important, isn't it?
It is, and I think one of the things that has really struck me with a lot of my conversations is a lot of times students find themselves heading towards careers that maybe someone has pushed them to because they're good at math or science or they're great at writing. And so people recommend these very traditional career paths to them. And then students start on that path and they realize they're not excited to go to class, or they start doing research into the job market and nothing's really, exciting about it to them. And so then they have this identity crisis of, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do now? And so the Purpose Center has been a really great tool or resource for students who are maybe navigating a change, and maybe they've always had a plan, or maybe people have always helped guide them, and all of a sudden they find themselves a little bit adrift and they don't know what to do, and they don't even know what to ask because they just know they're not happy. And sometimes they think, am I supposed to be happy, or am I just supposed to keep chugging? And so we really help students figure out that it's okay. All of your experiences that you have, they help you figure out what you like and what you don't like. And so I think sometimes helping students navigate that transition is really one of my favorite things, and helping them figure out it's okay if it changes. No one ever told me that. And I think I love being able to tell students that and help them navigate.
Yeah, and I was joking about 1985 because it was the beginning of my sophomore season, sophomore year, and I had this idea that college wasn't for me anymore. I was a pre-business major, and I was just completely lost at school, and I went down and found myself I was going to go and enroll. I was looking for the bursar's office. I don't know if that's how you do it these days, but that was back in that day. That's how you did it. And I walked into Emore Hall on the campus of West Virginia University, and I was standing there looking around, and this older gentleman, I came to find out his name was Dean Joseph Gluck, who was the dean. He was like a retired dean of student life back at the time. I don't know if you know that name or not. He was an elderly guy. He had a suit on and a tie, and he said, "Young man, it looks like you're lost." And I said, "Sir, I am in more ways than one." Oh. And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, I'm looking for the bursar's office. I'm dropping out of school today." I said, I can't find my way here. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, my purpose, right?" Mm-hmm. And so he brought me into his office. He said, "Do you have a minute?" And I said, "Yeah, I've got all day. I'm not planning to go to class today." And he started asking me some of the things you were talking about way before these surveys and assessments, were a thing. What do you like to do? What are your passions? Mm-hmm. Where do you see yourself? And all these different questions. And he asked me the question that really changed my life. He said, "Have you ever thought about a career in advertising?" He just listened for me, maybe 10 minutes. Yeah. And he asked that question, "Have you ever thought about a career in advertising?" And it was like the skies opened and an epiphany landed on me. And he said, "It looks like that excites you." I said, "Yeah, I don't even know what that is, but that's awesome." And the next thing you know, I'm sitting in the office of Guy Stewart, who was the dean of the journalism school back then at Martin Hall. Mm-hmm. And Dean Gluck, called ahead, and they were waiting on me. I went in an hour, I went from dropping out of school to having a journalism school application in my hand. Yeah. More excited than I've ever been. And here I am, 38 years later, or whatever it's been, after I graduated, and we're talking about that. So thanks for allowing me to share that little story.
Thank you.
This is about you, but I wanted to share that because I can relate to that. Mm-hmm. Finding your purpose, finding your why in this world, especially at a large university, can be a difficult thing. How did you get started in this field anyway?
That's a great question. So ever since I've been at West Virginia University, which is about 15 years now, I have always found myself kind of in student development roles. When I worked at engineering, I naturally was drawn to some of the student organization work because I was helping students become leaders and figure out what they were naturally good at and helping kind of guide them through the process of growing up, away from home.
Sure.
And so I've kind of always been drawn to those kind of roles. And when the Purpose Center was opening up, a friend of mine was working there, and she said, "We have an open position. I think you would be great in it if you'd like to apply." And so I applied, and I remember thinking when I read the job description, I don't even know what this means. I don't even know what a Purpose Center could possibly look like or do, or how can you help people figure out what their purpose is, because it just sounded so big to me. And so I applied, and I ultimately got the job. And I remember sitting at my desk my first day, and I reread the job description that day, and I was like, I still have no idea, but now I have the job, so I better figure it out.
That's so
and
good.
So what was great about it was I had a very point-blank conversation with my supervisor and said, "This sounds cool, but I don't know where to start. It's really overwhelming." And she said, "That's fine. Just, we don't have to eat the elephant all in one bite."
Yeah.
And so we slowed down, and we were trying to figure out how can we make small improvements, move the needle just a little bit. And the thing that really struck me was I wasn't actually having to tell anybody what their purpose was. I wasn't the one prescribing, "This is your future."
Yeah.
All I had to do was ask questions.
Yeah.
And for me, once I had that epiphany, I was like, oh, I can ask questions all day long. I can help people be introspective and reflect on what they like, what they don't like. And so that, for me, was really the moment where I realized I was super excited about this role that I had just gotten, and that there was just so much that we could do with it.
Yeah, I love it. This is Positively West Virginia. We'll be right back. Stay connected with an unbeatable deal from Breezeline. Voted best in Mountaineer Country for their reliable, high-speed fiber internet for a low cost, Breezeline is the best gig in town. Here at InnerAction Media, we rely on high-speed internet every single day to ensure we can deliver the best content possible for our clients and when we publish Positively West Virginia each week. That's why we use Breezeline. It's affordable, fast, and they're great people as well. Learn more about Breezeline's internet, TV, and mobile options at breezeline.com.
Your prescriptions are designed to keep you healthy, active, full of life. At Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield, we're making vital medicine more affordable. Because when your prescriptions don't cost an arm and a leg, you can use those limbs for something more meaningful. Because life. Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield, West Virginia.
So, Cate, you're with the WVU Purpose Center, the director. What would you say is the most important thing that people should know about the Purpose Center?
Great question. So I think that if you take away nothing else from this conversation, the Purpose Center is a resource and a tool to help you figure out kind of some of the big questions and to make sure that you are thinking about what you're naturally good at and the impact that you want to make, kind of how you're going to get there, and how do those things combine so that you can go out there and solve real world problems and kind of help, whether that's being here in the state if you want to make the state better or if you want to make the greater world better, but wherever that pocket of the world that you want to make an impact in, figuring out how you're going to do that and what path that looks like.
That's great. I love that. Cate, you're not originally from West Virginia, but tell us a little bit about your background. Where were you born and how did you get here?
Yeah, so my dad was in the Army. I was born in Illinois. I was raised in North Carolina. And then when my dad retired, he knew that he wanted to move his family somewhere that was safe, somewhere that had outdoor adventure, and somewhere that had an orchestra program because my sister played the cello. And that was really the only criteria. And the realtors were helping my dad look all over the country, Wichita, Idaho, all over. And then they finally said, have you ever heard of West Virginia? Have you ever thought about living there? And he basically said, I've never heard of it, don't know anything about it, let's go there. And so we ended up moving to Shinston, West Virginia.
Yeah.
I went to high school there, graduated from Lincoln High School, and it was great. I'd never lived in a small town community like that before, and I really loved it. And so ultimately ended up here in Morgantown for college, came to WVU, and then loved it and never left. But I've also found a lot of that same small town charm that we had in Shinston here in Morgantown. It feels like a big city, but it also has a lot of those small town moments.
That's awesome. So I love that backstory, and I appreciate that. What would you say is the thing that you're most excited about the WVU Purpose Center right now? What has you so excited?
So every day is something different, and I think there's lots of things to be excited about. We're going in a lot of different directions, helping a lot of different audiences, from students to faculty, staff, alumni, community partners. So there's pockets of excitement in a lot of different directions. But I think the thing that I love the most is there's so much momentum and so many people who are getting it now. And I think at first we kind of had people weren't sure. They were uncertain about what is the Purpose Center, what is this really?
Yeah.
And so now people are buying into it, and they understand that if we can get people working towards something they believe in or an impact that they want to make, that they're going to be more resilient. They're going to stick with it. They're going to, stay and fix problems in places that they want to be. And so I think that knowing that we are putting people out there in positions to have a real world impact is really exciting to me.
Yeah, that's so good. And I can only imagine that years from now, your name's going to be brought up in conversation. I had this conversation with Cate Schlobohm, and she changed my life with a sentence. I could hear that, because I've been through that myself.
I was thinking about that earlier this morning. We actually had a student who she came to us probably 2 weeks ago, and she was lost. She's a STEM student, and she realized she was on a path that she didn't want to be on. She loves STEM, she loves math, she really loves chemistry, but she didn't want to kind of be on that patient-facing side of things with helping people. And so she needed some work on what other career paths exist. What could I do with this? And so we had a really robust network of people in the university that helped her, everybody from career services to some of our partners over at engineering, and everybody really came together as a group to help this one student. And I kept thinking about, I hope that one day she realizes how many people invested in her and really focused their time and energy and effort into making sure that she was happy and that she was on a path that she wanted to be on. And I hope that makes a difference in her future.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I can think about a lot of the things you're talking about are like asking questions, being curious. Those are things that a great coach does. So in essence, you're a purpose coach in a way. And so being able to take these young students and helping them to really self-discover what their purpose is, I think is really important. And I guess the question that's in my mind is, and I appreciated your excitement about the things that are, that you're excited about for right now, but are we preparing these students, at their adolescent age, as they're coming through middle school into high school, to really uncover that? Like, as you mentioned, like, we're oftentimes like, I didn't get a lot of direction. I know a lot of other kids in my school, my high school, they were kind of being forced into a career path and didn't even like it. Hey, my dad's a doctor, I got to go to med school, and all those kinds of things. What is the impetus for all this, like lack of purpose and so forth? What do you think it is?
I mean, gosh, that's a really big question.
Yeah, I know.
So
I'm just thinking of it, stream of consciousness.
I think that, first of all, are we preparing students to have these conversations? I don't necessarily think so, but I think that is work we're working on, kind of improving. I think all educators, everybody that's working with youth, they want to see students be successful. I don't think anybody doesn't want that.
Yeah.
But I think there's so much that you have to do that sometimes these more vague conversations with kind of fuzzy outcomes are hard to have. And so, a student may not be ready or may not be at the place in their journey to have that conversation either. So I think it's a conversation that has to happen multiple times. And so we've been working with Mon County Schools. They're one of our partners that we work with.
That's great.
To talk about purpose and strengths so that they can start having those conversations with their students. I have these conversations with my kids every single day. I ask them, what was something you were excited about today? Well, what do you think that could lead to in the future? And so I think getting that language, people aren't great at reflecting. That's something
right.
we've noticed is a lot of people are very good at checking boxes, but when you ask them to take a step back and think about why did you check that box, they get a little uncomfortable. And then I think the teaching the skills of self-reflection and being okay with not having all the answers. Those are things we're not necessarily preparing students for. And so that's something that we try to really focus on with our students coming in the freshman year with the self-reflection piece especially.
I love that. And, we talked about, Shinston and, kind of growing up in Harrison County and here in West Virginia. And I think sometimes, as it pertains to finding purpose, I think it has to do a little bit with exposure. Because I feel like, for instance, I've done Shadow Day with a local Rotary Club for years. And a lot of times, this might be a senior in high school, and they've never been into a business like as a insider and see what goes on in a business, and the light bulbs start going off because they've never been exposed to it. And I wonder sometimes about casting a vision for these young people. Like, I know career days and things of those things are important, but getting out in the community and doing some shadowing with a person, maybe you're thinking about something and you go, that's really not for me. Or maybe it ignites a passion for somebody, and those kinds of things. Do you feel that that's important, exposing kids to like what could be, what should be?
So we consider that experiential learning is what we talk about a lot at the university. And experiential learning is so important for finding what you do like, but also finding what you don't like, and also just uncovering things that you didn't even know existed. So, for example, I did a co-op with Toyota, and it was really great. I studied engineering my first 3 years of college. I was doing fine. I had this great co-op with Toyota, first in the southern part of West Virginia, then out in California. And it was such a great experience. I got to help build a 6-speed transmission plant. I was doing all of these high-level real work experiences. But I realized I was more drawn to helping write the company newsletter. And I loved doing things with supplier relations. And there were these things that were so far from engineering. And when I came back to campus after my internship, I said, so what were those jobs that were really giving me a lot of energy and that I was excited about? And we didn't have a Purpose Center. There was nobody to help guide me through that. But there's also a lot of other resources on campus. The Purpose Center isn't the only one doing that. But I talked with advisors, and they actually sent me to the College of Media. And from there, that was how I got into public relations.
Amazing.
And so that internship helped me realize what I was doing was great and it was fine, but there were other paths that I was more excited about.
I love that
was
story.
Really helpful.
Thank you for sharing that. This is Positively West Virginia. We'll be right back. In a world obsessed with leadership, what if the real key to success is followership? We hear it all the time. Be a leader, take charge. But what if the most impactful people aren't the ones leading from the front? In Humble Influence, I explore how humility, collaboration, and shared purpose empower followers to create meaningful change in business, organizations, and relationships. Discover the strength of true followership with humble influence. Folks, we're back. We're visiting with Cate Schlobohm. She is the director of the WVU Purpose Center on the campus of West Virginia University. Cate, you talked about some of these assessment tools. Can we jump in and kind of talk a little bit about how that all works?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've talked a lot about purpose up until this point. And so that's, kind of the why. That's why we're doing what we're doing. Yeah. But one of the assessments we use is called Clifton Strengths. And so our partner, Gallup, is the parent company of Clifton Strengths. And so what Clifton Strengths are they are the things that you naturally do well. So how you approach problem solving, communication, working in a team, and all of us do that differently. And so our students have the opportunity to take that assessment before they come on campus so they can start thinking about how they're going to do those things, how they're going to show up as the best version of themselves in class and then in their future careers. And so that we have a lot of really rich conversations around those Clifton Strengths.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's kind of neat because you got the science, you got the compassion, you've got the curriculum mapped out. Is there a particular student or an outcome that you're able to share with, like, man, this really kind of changed the trajectory of their path? You shared your story, which is awesome.
I shared with you about the student yesterday that we connected with engineering, but we have those stories all the time where there's a student that maybe feels lost. I think one of the biggest things that we're seeing right now is students are struggling to build community, and they're really having a hard time crossing that bridge and making friends. They have their friends from back home, but now everybody's in this transition. And one of the Clifton Strengths that we've seen that is really common for our students is relator. And that's our number one strength for both our freshman and sophomore classes. And people that have that strength, they prefer small one-on-one interactions with people that they've built relationships with a lot of trust and over time. And so when you throw them into a situation where everybody's brand new, it's uncomfortable for a lot of them. And so that one of the things that we're seeing a lot is students are having trouble in that making connections and community building realm. And so one of my kind of success moments where, I went to bed thinking I've made a difference today was I had a student reach out to me and she said, I made a new friend today. And as simple and as maybe small as that seems, it was huge because that one friend could be the reason she stays at WVU. And to me, that made a difference. Yeah, or even gets their diploma, goes out and forges a new career path because of that. Yeah. That one relationship, one conversation, one sentence, potentially. Exactly. That's awesome. I love that. So as we're talking about, and I mean, I'm thinking about career paths and future and West Virginia's future, and I'm also simultaneously thinking about the job market and what are going to be the jobs, quote unquote, the careers in the future, because there's so much disruption happening right now with artificial intelligence and tools that are just, potentially obliterating certain career paths, and I'm wondering, like, are you seeing that too, and how are you able to address those kinds of conversations and direction? So I think that coming from my engineering background, when I worked at the College of Engineering for 10 years, we had our Dean Salento. He was always telling us that we were constantly preparing for the future and that we were preparing students for jobs that didn't even exist yet. Love that. And for me, that was something I think that was really foundational and inspirational for me because in a university setting, you can't have your eye on what's happening right now. It's always future oriented and always looking to what could be. And so I think that yes, there's a lot of disruptions right now, but that's always been the case. And Dean Salento used to point to what people thought about when emails were coming in and like when the internet came in and how that was going to disrupt work. And so I think we just need to be aware that things are changing and we need to be preparing students for those changes. But it's not necessarily something to be afraid of. And I think, we have a lot of conversations with students about how some of those changes might impact the industries they're going into, but then also how they can be a part of that change too. It doesn't have to be scary. Yeah, I think that's the right mindset. We've been talking a lot about artificial intelligence within our company since really November of 2022. OpenAI unleashed ChatGPT in that time, and
we were, really trying to figure out like, what's this going to mean back then? And it seems like 10 years ago, but it was just, 3 years ago or whatever. And so much has happened in it's that brief 3-year period with artificial intelligence, large language model, generative AI. And to me, that's the mindset I've had, is like, let's embrace this because it is going to help us. Especially if we can harness these tools and technology for good. I think that really goes a long way. And I also believe that AI and humanity, as humans, we're going to be excellent if we could just do human things, like listening and being curious and having compassion and caring for people, loving people. Machines can't do that right now yet. But the point is that, if we could take this technology and humanize it and use it for good, that's going to be the sweet spot, I think.
I think we've seen already, Gallup, again, our partner, they love AI, and they've created a lot of really wonderful tools in terms of coaching with strengths about how you can use your strengths in combination or with partnerships. And so say, one of your teammates has a completely different set of strengths than you, and you come to the situation, maybe you have a problem or you have to have a hard conversation or something like that. There's these AI tools that you can kind of evaluate what those partnerships might look like, or where there might be pinch points, or where we might be able to have a really great partnership, and you kind of use those differences to our advantages.
That's great.
So again, while there are things that may be a little bit scary or we aren't sure of yet, there's also all these really good sides that I'm excited about. I think it's going to be wonderful.
Me too. I appreciate you having that mind frame, because I think you have to, like you said, we have to be preparing these young people for jobs that don't even exist. I love that. That's really wise, and I appreciate that. So, in terms of getting the word out there, how do you get students to come into the Purpose Center? Are they referrals, or are they just hearing about you, or how does that work?
So I think it's a lot of word of mouth. There's a lot of buy-in from our faculty and staff. So I think one of the things that has helped us be so successful in the Purpose Center is that we didn't replace any office. We are just kind of a complement to a lot of the services that already exist.
Sounds like it, yeah.
And post-COVID, our students came back a little bit different, and we knew that. And one of the things that we specifically saw was they were lonely, they needed help, but a lot of them weren't comfortable asking for help. They didn't know who to ask. They definitely weren't going to pick up the phone and cold call some office and say, how can you help me? Or can you help me navigate this problem? Yeah. And so we kind of become almost the concierge for the university in this way of, oh, you are interested in studying abroad? Let me connect you to those people in that office. Or you want to do research? Well, we have all kinds of different programs. So let's kind of ask some questions and see which research program is right for you. Yeah, so helping them navigate all of these opportunities is one way. And so that comes a lot through referrals. We also have a really robust online presence, so they can go online and see kind of what our services look like. But the faculty buy-in, we have so many faculty members who, the moment a student kind of expresses uncertainty, or even if they know exactly what they want, they say, you need to talk to the Purpose Center. They can help you get on that path. And so I think having the support of the university community has been really huge to our success.
That's great. Cate, I love the enthusiasm you have and the passion you have for this Purpose Center. Do you feel like you're living your purpose now?
I think about that a lot. So I do a lot of sessions where I walk people through the steps of exploring their purpose. And so sometimes when you're facilitating, you don't get the opportunity to participate, but I've intentionally taken a step back a few times and done the work right along with the groups that I'm facilitating with. And I've had a lot of time to explore my purpose. And I really think what it comes down to for me is I love connecting people to opportunities, whether that be my children, whether that be my friends, whether that be students at the university, whether that be people outside of the university. That's what it boils down to for me. And in the Purpose Center, that is exactly what I get to do every single day. So yeah, I'm absolutely living my purpose.
I love it. That's really cool. I spoke to a freshman entrepreneurship class a couple of semesters ago, and one of the questions, it was kind of cool because I always bring a stack of books when I go to speak at a class, and like some of my favorite books. And if anybody asks a question, I give them a book, It's kind of my little thing. And the question came, and they said, sir, you seem like you're on fire for what you do. You're like, how do you get that energy? How do you keep that energy going? And I said, well, I've been doing this for 37 years. And I said, at the time, I said, the short answer is, I wake up every morning and I completely believe that I'm doing the work that I was created to do. And that to me is like, that's purpose. And I feel that. I didn't always feel that way, but I feel like it now. It's just like so awesome and so on fire for doing what I was created to do. And I think that's the essence of purpose.
Exactly. And I think one of the things that's really helpful for students or anybody that we're talking with about purpose is they can see that passion in some people and they think, how do I get that? I want that too. And I think one of the things we have to do too is share that it hasn't always been that way. You mentioned it wasn't always that way for you.
Sure.
And I've had jobs where it wasn't that for me as well. And so sharing those moments where you woke up and you're like, oh, this isn't it. I don't love this. Being able to share some of those kind of, I don't want to say failures, but learning experiences where you were reflective enough to realize it wasn't right and that you needed to get on a different path.
Life is truly a journey, and there's twists and there's turns, and it's not a straight path for sure. And so I think that's important. Cate, I want to ask, anytime I have an opportunity to sit across the table from a business leader and an education leader like yourself, I want to ask a leadership question. And I guess the thought that I have is, what in your role, what is one of the most important attributes of a successful leader today? Whether it's in education, whether it's a young person, whether it's somebody who's senior level, what do you think is the most important attribute for a successful leader today?
That is a great question. And I think I'm going to approach that through a strengths-based lens.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say whatever is authentic to that leader. Because I could give you an answer and say that every leader should do X, Y, or Z. But if that's not authentic to them, then it's not going to be the right move for that leader. So I would say for each leader is to think about what they do naturally well, what matters to them, where do their values lie, and then to lead in a way that is authentic to them and not try to fit some mold of what you think leadership looks like.
I love that. Yeah, that's a great way of describing an effective leader today. And there's so much information out there about leadership, but I love the idea of being yourself. Sometimes you're going to be on, sometimes you're going to be off, and it's okay.
Absolutely.
So I think that's really good. What's one piece of advice you would give a student, or maybe even a parent that's listening to this right now that has a student and either preparing for college or in college and hasn't been able to find their way? What would you say to them?
That's a great question, too. I would say, if you're trying to navigate that, stay curious, ask lots of questions. I love asking people, how did you get where you are? Because what I've learned is nobody has a linear path. Right. And so just ask lots of questions, dig into things like LinkedIn to kind of uncover how people got to where they are. And then also just figure out what kind of problems do you like to solve, because you can work backwards from there. If you know you want to help people in a certain industry, okay, well, there's not just one way to do that. So kind of working backwards from what is the problem that you like to solve or what that outcome is that you want to get to.
Reverse engineer.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's very cool. I appreciate that. And, as far as getting in contact with the WVU Purpose Center, what's the best way for folks to do that and maybe even get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I would say email is always the best way. We have a really robust website, so if they go to purpose.wvu.edu, they can see all of our resources, some of our success stories, and then if they want to email us, it's just purpose@mail.wvu.edu.
Yeah, we'll make sure we have links to all that in the show notes. I was on the website. It is very robust and lots of great tools. And again, I wish when I was in college that the Purpose Center at WVU was a thing, because that would have saved me some strife in probably a semester or maybe even a whole year, because I was a 5-year student at WVU. So that's great. Cate, we've covered a lot in this interview. Is there anything else you think our listeners and viewers should know about the Purpose Center that we haven't covered, or even about your personal story?
I think one thing that I would like to highlight, because there are so many people doing the work of the Purpose Center. It's not just me. We have a team of 60 plus Gallup certified strengths coaches across campus, embedded in different units and different departments. So there's a lot of people who are supporting our work. There's a lot of departments that are there.
That's
so I want to make sure that everybody understands it's not just our unit doing this really important work. And the other thing that I'm really proud of is our university has won 2 global awards for the work that we're doing through Gallup. We've won the Strength-Based Campus Award twice. We're the only university to ever have done that.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
so
that's
amazing.
Really impressive. We're
It
really
is
excited
impressive,
about that. And so we're getting recognition. Other universities are calling us saying, how do we do this? And where do we start? And so I think that we're really a leader here in West Virginia, making a difference and showing people that this is important work and it needs to happen.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you for sharing
Thank
that. I just think the work that you're doing is very impactful, and I think that finding purpose as a young person is very important. Obviously, and the sooner we can go down that path, the sooner it's going to have an impact on the positive outcomes for these students and in the careers. And I also think, as you were talking, Cate, I've had the opportunity to interview quite a few WVU entrepreneurs, either coming through Vantage Ventures or John Chambers College of Business and Economics, coming through the business plan competition or Ignite West Virginia over the years. And there's a lot of really great talent at West Virginia University from these students. And one of the things, and you kind of hit on it throughout the interview, is that like solving for problems. And I think that if you're a young person and you're going through school and you find your purpose through the Purpose Center or another way, if you can be solving for problems that can help West Virginia grow, I want to encourage these young people to stay here in West Virginia, because we need great talent. We need people, the people that you're helping find their purpose. It's such a big deal to me, like hearing what you're saying, that if we can help these young people find purpose and stay here and help our state, I think that's going to be awesome.
Absolutely. And I would kind of wrap up with saying too, for the students who maybe know that they need to find purpose, they know that's important, and they're struggling with that. No one has it figured out. I think that's also something that I always try to highlight for students. I talk to faculty members who've been in their role for 30 years and who come to us and say, I don't know if this is what I'm meant to be doing. Or, people out in the community who are having kind of that transition period. And I always tell people, no one knows what they're doing. Nobody knows exactly. And we all try new things and learn new things and have new experiences.
It's great perspective,
so it's okay. If you don't have it figured out, there's time.
And I like to say that, when people say, I'm stuck, or I don't know what to do, I'm stuck, I always say, take a step. That's how you get unstuck.
Yeah.
And maybe the step is in the direction of the WVU Purpose Center.
Absolutely.
Cate Schlobohm serves as the director of West Virginia University's Purpose Center. Cate, it's been awesome to have you on the show today to learn more about your catching up and learning about what you're doing. I'm just so impressed with the work. I find it invaluable, the work that you're doing here in West Virginia at WVU, and I just want to encourage you to keep up the great work.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Folks, that's a wrap on another episode of Positively West Virginia. If you or someone you know would be a great guest on our show, drop us a line on our website at positivelywv.com. We, of course, appreciate you giving us encouragement along the way, sharing, giving us 5-star reviews only, and then sharing these great stories of people like Cate Schlobohm and the work she's doing with West Virginia University's Purpose Center. On behalf of our entire Positively West Virginia team, including our producer today, Mr. Jimmy Murray behind the controls, I'm your host, Jim Matuga. Stay positive, West Virginia.
We'd like to thank our partners, Highmark West Virginia, Freedom Kia of Morgantown, InnerAction Media, Humble Influence, and our studio sponsor, Breezeline, for helping to share these positive stories. If you'd like to become a sponsor of the Positively West Virginia podcast, visit positivelywv.com/sponsor.